Hiring is tough, right? But what happens when your company is spread across, dozens of countries? All of a sudden, you're not just trying to find the best talent, you're solving this incredibly complex global puzzle. So today, let's look at how some of the world's biggest companies are actually putting those pieces together.
All right, so where do we even begin with something this big? Well, let's start by looking at a company that the World Economic Forum actually calls a lighthouse. Like a beacon that's showing the way for navigating diversity, equity, and inclusion, but on a massive global scale. And that company is Schneider Electric. Now, you might know them. They're a huge French multinational, and they specialize in all things energy management and automation. And when I say huge, I mean it. They've got a massive global footprint, 162,000 employees spread across more than 100 countries. So their approach to human resources, it has to be top-notch. The big question is, how do they do it? Okay, take a look at this number, 97.3%. What do you think that represents? Well, this is Schneider's gender pay equity figure from back in 2021. What it means is that women at the company earned 97.3 cents for every single dollar a man earned for doing comparable work. And look, while that's not a perfect 100%, let's put it into perspective for a second. And here's that context I was talking about. When you compare it to an average of just 82% in the US and 87% in the EU, well, Schneider is miles ahead. It's not even close. And what's more, they're on track to close that gap to less than 1% by 2025. This isn't just luck, folks. This is the result of a very deliberate global strategy.
So what's their secret sauce? It really boils down to this philosophy: being multi-local. They believe that to win globally, you have to be deeply, deeply connected locally. For a company like Schneider, having a diverse and equitable workforce isn't just about doing the right thing. It's a direct driver of innovation and performance in every single one of their markets.
Schneider's success is a fantastic example that really illustrates why we need to talk about the bigger picture here. Managing people on a global scale, what we call global human resource management, it's about so much more than just hiring and firing.
So let's break it down. At its very core, human resource management, HRM, is basically how a company manages its people. We're talking hiring, training, compensation, performance reviews, all that essential stuff. Sounds pretty straightforward, right?
Well, not so fast. What happens when your team isn't just in one office, but is spread all across the globe? Things get complicated, fast. Suddenly, something as simple as hiring someone or figuring out their salary becomes this tangled web of challenges.
And this is the puzzle we were talking about. You're not just dealing with one set of rules. You're juggling different labor markets, deeply ingrained cultural norms, wildly different legal and economic systems, not to mention unique local customs. A policy that works perfectly in, say, San Francisco could be totally ineffective or, hey, even illegal in Shanghai.
And all this complexity means global HR can't just be an administrative department shuffling paperwork. No way. It has to be a strategic partner. It's the linchpin that holds the entire global company together.
I love this analogy. Think about a linchpin. It's that small, simple pin that keeps a wheel from flying off an axle. Well, in a company, the people are that linchpin. They're the ones who connect the big, grand corporate strategy to the day-to-day work that actually makes things happen and creates value. So what this all means is that a global company's HR practices can't just be an afterthought. They have to be perfectly aligned with the overall strategy. Because at the end of the day, getting the people part right is how you win on a global stage. Okay, so with that in mind, let's dive into one of the biggest decisions a global company has to make. Who do you actually put in charge of your foreign operations? Turns out, there are three main approaches to solving this staffing puzzle. Let's start with a question. Just imagine a big company from Japan opens a new factory right here in the United States, but all the top managers are flown in from the headquarters in Tokyo. What do you think are the pros and cons of doing something like that? Well, this is what we call the ethnocentric approach. It's when a company fills all of its key management positions abroad with people from its home country or parent country. And historically, this was super common. You saw it a lot in big names like Philips and Panasonic. The thinking behind it was, hey, this ensures our corporate culture and our special skills get transferred effectively. Okay, this table really lays it all out nicely. First, you've got the ethnocentric approach we just talked about. It's great for maintaining control, but as you can see, you run a big risk of cultural blindness. Next up is the polycentric approach. This is where you hire local managers for your local offices. It's often cheaper and you've got way more cultural awareness, but it can create a real disconnect between the local office and headquarters. And finally, there's the geocentric approach, simply hiring the best person for the job, period, anywhere in the world. This is kind of the holy grail for building a true global culture, but it's also by far the most difficult and expensive to pull off.
Let's circle back to that big risk of the ethnocentric model, cultural myopia. It's a great term. It basically means a company fails to understand the cultural differences in the countries it operates in. It's like wearing blinders. You only see the world through the lens of your own culture, and that can lead to some massive mistakes.
And trust me, the cost of getting this wrong could be huge. Walmart's attempt to crack the German market is a classic textbook example. They tried to just import their American management practices, things that worked great in the US, and they just didn't fly with German culture. It became a famous case study in cultural myopia, a very, very expensive lesson to learn.
So as we start to wrap this up, it's pretty clear that deciding who to hire and where isn't just some HR task you delegate. It's one of the most critical, strategic choices a global company can possibly make.
And I think the biggest takeaway here is that there is no single right answer. The best approach really depends on the company's overall strategy, right? If you need to be super responsive to local markets, maybe the polycentric approach is for you. If you need to standardize everything across the board, maybe ethnocentric is the way to go.
But for many of today's complex global firms, companies just like Schneider Electric, the ideal, the goal, is the geocentric approach. It builds a strong, unified global culture, and it allows you to make the best use of talent from all over the world. It's really the ultimate expression of being a truly global company.
So that leaves us with a final question to think about for the future. As our world becomes more and more connected, as borders become less and less relevant, and talent becomes truly global, will companies that cling to an old-world ethnocentric model even be able to compete? Or is a geocentric world the only one that really makes sense anymore?